Good morning, Unity Halton Peel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Wendy Carr, licensed Unity teacher, and it is my privilege to be the host for today's gathering. And our special guest is Dr. Reverend Jane Simmons. More on her in a moment. But let us come together. And thank you for those of you on the Zoom call for muting yourselves. And let us begin with an affirmation for our community. The infinite mind of God fills my awareness with all the right ideas for all the people who come and will come to Unity Halton Peel. We gratefully follow the guidance. It is so, and so it is. And let's just take a moment to breathe this idea, knowing that as we gather, as we join our hearts and minds together in this time, others will feel the energy of our presence and wonder what's up. And we welcome all, today, tomorrow, and always. So it is. Our mission is to lovingly inspire transformation and be of service to the world. And just as a small note, it can be something so seemingly insignificant, but we never know how that gesture, how that word, how that smile will affect another. And our daily word for today is wholeness. As a divine being, I am whole. I know I am whole, wondrously made, and a unique expression of the divine. But I cannot truly know wholeness if I become distracted by an experience of illness or thoughts of lack or limitation. I do not resist limiting thoughts. Instead, I let the light of divine understanding dissolve the darkness of spiritual ignorance. Remembering that divine life lives as me, I affirm my body's wholeness even if I am experiencing illness. Growing awareness of the limitless flow of divine ideas reminds me I have all I need to experience a joyous, abundant life. As I say yes again and again to my true spiritual nature, my life becomes an ever unfolding demonstration of wholeness. And from Luke, the 11th chapter, 36th verse, if then your whole body is full of light, with no part of it in darkness, it will be as full of light as when a lamp gives you light with its rays. And that leads us into our opening prayer. I just invite you to give yourself permission to be fully present to this moment, to allow the week that has been to just be in the past. Anything that needs to be carried forward will be waiting for us. And for the week that is to come, again, to just be in the future. And just to allow ourselves to rest in this now moment. In English, we use the phrase I am for the present tense. Here in Unity, we also use the I am to distinguish our divine nature. And in this consciousness, we open ourselves to the words, the music, and just the energy of our coexistence together, our ability to come together across time zones and kilometers to experience our spiritual nature. And so it is. All right, our first song, Karen Drucker favorite, I Am So Grateful.
I am so grateful for all I am. I bring gifts to share. I am part of God's plan. I am so grateful for all I am.
And it's my great pleasure to welcome our guest speaker today, Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons. Full disclosure, Jane and I go back farther than either of us are willing to admit. Um, and it has been quite the journey together. For sure, it's been 25 years because that's when she graduated and I graduated the year after. So, Jane, welcome. Thank you for getting up early, and we're looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Well, thank you, Wendy. As she mentioned, we go back. We have some real roots together back in our Hamilton Unity days, way before I was ordained, and she was a licensed teacher. She was actually our Unitine leader when my son was in Unitines, and so we have lots of memories to call from. It's great to be with Wendy and all of you. It's always good to be with my Canadian friends. I always feel like everything's all right when I'm connected to Canadians in some way. Gary and I just did a little getaway. Well, I'm only 30 miles from the border, so we headed up to BC and with our motorhome and spent some time on Canadian soil. And something happens when I cross that border. I can breathe. I feel like everything's just all right. And to be honest, that's not always my state of mind these days. Sometimes I succumb to, oops, where's the, I succumb to all the political strife, the fear mongering that goes on uh, in, in the, not just here in this country, but in the world in the form of breaking news. And I forget that everything's all right. The word fear has been broken down to mean a variety of things. The old false evidence appearing real, that one's been around for a while. Then there's forget everything and run. I don't know if anybody does that when they start to feel fearful. Face everything and rise. My talk title is my new favorite acronym for the word fear. Forgetting everything's all right, right here and now in this moment. And this morning I want to paint a picture with you of an awakening moment I once had that where I had forgotten that everything was all right. It's a very fearful moment for me. But this experience that I had that I'm going to share with you actually brought me into a much deeper realization of something I had previously only slightly understood or given lip service to. And it actually woke me up to something that I had not been conscious of. I'd been asleep too. This my dog looks like this. That's why I picked this picture. But this whole idea of being unconscious of what's going on within us, this moment was a real awakening moment for me. Um, and I'm going to share that with you. Are you ready for my story? Because I even have pictures. I even have pictures of this. And it begins at dawn one Saturday morning with 600 people gathered at a waterfront park along the river in Portland, Oregon. And each person was wearing headphones or earbuds and standing with our eyes closed. And it resembled an alien invasion in some kind, but in fact, it was a massive walking meditation that was being guided by Dr. Joe Dispenza, courtesy of a downloaded script on our phones. And I was one of those 600 people. It was part of a week-long event that my husband Gary and I attended with Dr. Joe. So we all began by facing the river for several minutes, motionless with our eyes closed. Some of us had our hands on our heart, but little by little, one at a time, as we were prompted to by the guided meditation we were listening to, we opened our eyes and began to step forward until all 600 of us collectively were on the move. And for the next hour, everyone walked, then stopped and paused, then walked again. And the entire waterfront was just flooded with this very curious sight, very curious sight. And all the morning joggers and the cyclists and the walkers were really puzzled by what they were witnessing. What is going on here? So we were all being prompted by the music and the dialogue as to when to get still, when to walk, um, when to pause, when to meditate, and then walk some more. And the goal of this whole thing was that we were walking right into our future. That was what we wanted to get. And while we were walking, we were listening for and we were watching for spirit's guidance in some way, right? How to move into this future self. So we were on the lookout for clues from spirit while we did this. Now, I love these kinds of things. This is the kind of stuff we used to do in YOU, a version of it where we'd be doing all these walk with God and that sort of thing. So I just love doing it. And I was delighted to be participating in this. I was having a great time and I was getting lots of guidance, lots of little clues coming to me, lots of intuitive understandings, lots of direction throughout the process. And things like this, like, Jane, you need to follow the current, stop fighting the current, right? Um, what else did I see? As I watched the movement of the river, I got that. And then I got, well, there's many ways to follow that current because I noticed the many sailboats and the speedboats and the kayaks and paddle boats that were all going down this river together. And then I was watching the farmers market set up and I saw food stalls all in a row. And they were so varied. There was the Kathmandu Cafe, there was Greek food, Thai food, a pretzel stand, the Beirut Cafe. And I got that what connects us is greater than our differences, and that we can exist side by side peacefully because of that, even though we may have different ways of expressing that there's something that connects us all in a deeper way. And I was so enjoying this. In fact, I was feeling kind of pleased with myself, thinking, I can't wait to share all this with Gary when I get back to the room. I'm so excited. And so, as I paused for one of the final meditative moments, I was really in a blissful state, a very expansive energy, feeling really connected. I was facing the river again, and I was kind of leaning into the guard rail, and just feeling really connected and excited and happy with the whole thing. And I was continuing to listen. What else does spirit want to convey to me as I'm stepping forward on this evolutionary path that I'm on, walking into my future? Very immersed in the experience. And suddenly, there was a rather abrupt intrusion into the depths of this enraptured state that I was in, just being a total bliss bunny, in the form of a blood curdling scream right behind my right ear, just screamed it into my ear. And my eyes flew open and I whirled around to come face to face with a wild-eyed man who was just so angry. He was part of the homeless encampment that was there. His face was twisted in rage. I just couldn't believe it. And he was giving me the one finger salute, let's call it. And then he wheeled around and he angrily stomped off, shouting obscenities at the top of his lungs as he walked away. And so I went, okay, God, that was unexpected. My heart was beating and beating, using Anne Lamott's wonderful descriptive analogy, like a tennis shoe and a dryer. Boom, 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 boom. And I was wide awake, thanks to the major hit of norepinephrine this homeless friend had gifted me with. And I looked around at all my other co-meditators who were also standing facing the river, hands on heart. And not one of them had were even remotely aware that something crazy had just transpired in my world. They were just totally blissed out, totally in the place that I had just been in. They were all just having a blissful time, as I had been until the terror of that moment. It was just terrifying. So, as my heart started to slow down, I went back to the meditation, and I have to confess, I had words with spirit. Like, okay, God, what was that all about? And why me out of these 600 people? If the world mirrors back to me what's within me, and I truly believe that, what is the message here? Why did that happen? And as I ruminated on these questions, I could almost hear some cosmic laughter, in the background. And I didn't think it was so funny at all. But the more I thought about it, I had to admit that it probably looked pretty hilarious from a higher perspective. It always does, right? It always looks, when we get to that higher perspective, we can see the humor. And suddenly the answers to my questions became very clear. I saw this man's face in my mind's eye, twisted and raged, and I realized that he was a tormented soul of some kind. Maybe he had PTSD, maybe he's schizophrenic, probably mentally challenged in some way. I don't know that for sure, but he sure looked troubled. There was something going on within him. And I realized how scary our little morning excursion would appear to someone who was so troubled. It probably looked like zombies had taken over where he lived. And the reason he was so angry and on the verge of violence was because he was afraid. It was fear speaking. The previous week, the same walking meditation had been held in Bonn, Germany, with 1,500 people this time, and they made the front page of the newspaper twice. Something about zombies on The Walking Dead arriving in their city. And so this was a sight to behold, especially if you had no idea what was going on. So this man was scared. He didn't know how to deal with what he saw, and his mind was making up some kind of frightening story, and no one was paying attention to him. That was the other aspect here. We were all in our own la la land. Didn't matter how loudly he talked as he was walking along or what he said to us. Nobody heard him. Nobody paid him any attention. So for some reason, just as he reached me, he also reached his limit. He needed some reaction. He needed some human response. So by leaning into my right ear and screaming as loudly as he could, well, he got my attention. He certainly got my attention. And once I got the aha that he was just coming from a place of fear, my heart opened in compassion. Oh, I got in a very real way. This is what we all do, you know? It made me question, when do I act out in fear? When things seem out of control in my world? When I don't feel like anyone's listening to me, I'm not being heard. And at first I thought, well, I don't do that. And then, well, I had to realize, Jane, you've been in a perpetual state of outrage every time you watch the news. So come on. And so then I could find it. I could find it. Yeah, there have been times when I've been reacting out of that fear, and it's come across as just this, like, I can't take another thing. And I realized that my fear based actions arose because I had forgotten that we're all divinely connected. Do you see that? This is what we forget. When I look at what's going on in the world, I mean, it seems like there are infinite problems, doesn't it? It seems like there are endless issues for us to solve. In fact, there's only one. There's only one problem, and that's a belief in separation and disconnection. And it causes all the other effects. When we live as alienated, disconnected selves and don't remember our divine connections and don't live the one presence, the one power. And when we're separate from spirit, when we are separate from each other, fear arises. It becomes our motivating force. Of course, we're never separate from spirit. We're never separate from each other. But it's the awareness of it that when we live unconsciously about that connection, fear is the natural response. We feel like we're fragmented, we're alone. And when we forget that we are now in the presence of pure being, that's one of my favorite Charles Sumner invocation, meditative ways of looking at where are we right now. I am now in the presence of pure being. Let that sink in right now. We are all right now in the presence of pure being. We are divinely connected. And when we forget that, when we forget there's only one presence pervading all, that there's one life sustaining all, and that we're all emanations of that power, embodying the divine, when we're not remembering that spirit is our source, that despite outer appearances, all is well. And when we live our lives in separation, we act out in fear. It just comes with the territory. And the kinds of behavior that we've been witness to in the political scene, both south of the border and in the world, when you look at all of the violence and the corruption coming from fear, Israel and Gaza fighting, Hungarian dictatorships rising, Russian aggression, it's all fueled by fear, fueled by fear. Opioid addiction reaching crisis proportions. Fear's behind it, both for the users and the sellers. So take a look and see that all these issues of conflict, strife, they stem from fear, from a sense of separation, isolation. In truth, the world's shadow is being exposed. And where all this led me finally was to seeing our human condition with great compassion. My heart was just so open and compassionate. And I realized that's the work. That's the work for us. It's overwhelming to try to fix everything, isn't it? It feels impossible to do that. But what if our work is to be able to help people connect with who they are, to find the love within them to overcome their fear? Imagine if we could look at all these outer signs of the disconnect and use them to inspire us to begin focusing on helping people get beyond the fear, beginning with ourselves, getting beyond fear. And then you know what? The world has a chance. The world has a chance to transform, to change. I love Rumi's poem, Out Beyond Ideas of Right, Wrongdoing, and Right Doing. There's a field. I'll meet you there. Meet you in that field. We are connected with each other, but to find that field beyond polarization, beyond the great divide that we're currently caught in, past the demonizing of each other, we have to get underneath the fear and experience the divine connection. The Dalai Lama said, if you taught 8-year-olds how to meditate, violence will be gone in a generation. And I believe that's true. All the years I worked in youth ministry, that kept, it was like a light shining for me. If our children learn how to meditate, we can help the world to become so much more. Let that vision sink in for a minute again. We're in the presence of pure being. And if we help our children learn that, the world changes, the world transforms because people transform from the inside out. A school in Baltimore is taking the Dalai Lama's words to heart. They have created, instead of a detention room, they've created a meditation room. It's called Mindful Moments Room. And it has been very successful in reducing their suspensions, which were happening all the time. When this was written, there hadn't been a single one. So I haven't followed up to see where they're at now. But I love this idea of a school taking on something like that. Maybe it can help. Gerald Jampolsky in his book, Teach Only Love, said there's only 2 emotions. Love, our natural inheritance, by the way, it's what we are, and fear, which is an invention of the mind. And when we align ourselves with the power of love, fear can be transmuted, can be transcended. It's not that we don't feel the fear, but we feel the fear, allow it its time. Emotion has a 90-second lifespan. Did you know this? From the moment it arises and crests and falls. 90 seconds, that's the lifespan of an emotion, unless we try to suppress it, push it away, and then it lasts forever under the surface. So learning to feel those feelings and allowing them, and then letting love be what helps to move us into a different space and eclipse that fearful place that we're in. That's the power of love. That's the power of love. That's what compassion can bring forth for ourselves and for each other. There are two ways to live life, one in separation, fear, disconnect, or connected, loving, and kind. That, that way is the way of God. The first way is in the way of God. As you know, Gary's work may have remembered, he talks about, are you on the way of God or are you in the way? So are you ready to be the way of God in action? You can nod your head here because the correct response is, yes, I am. Glad you mentioned it, Jane. Shade Claiborne, in his book Common Prayer, A Liturgy for Ordinary Radicals, says this: peacemaking doesn't mean passivity. It's the act of interrupting injustice without mirroring the injustice. It's the act of disarming evil without destroying the evildoer, finding a third way, which is neither fight nor flight, but the careful, arduous pursuit of reconciliation and justice that sets both the oppressed and the oppressors free. That third way. That third way lives in the field of all possibilities. That's being the way of God. It's being the way of peace, bringing peace to our planet. And my homeless friend that I began to think of as my guru by now, by the way, showed me without a doubt what gets created when I come from fear and not love. It doesn't mean that I say yes, by the way, to violence or abuse or become a doormat. Love doesn't do that. Love says no. No way to that. I'm not talking about an anemic, wimpy sentimentality here. No. I'm talking about a fierce, powerful force for good. Divine love, soul energy. Love says no to harming others. It says no way to harming the planet. But that no is given with a compassionate heart as we see what happens when someone who has forgotten who they are, has forgotten that everything's all right, forgotten that they are enough, that there's enough to go around, and consequently acts out of fear. And it allows us to live in the very clear reality of the present rather than living with our perceptions shrouded in the past. So my walking meditation turned out to be very productive, and it indeed set me walking right into my future as I realized what the work is. And I feel only gratitude for that awakening moment. I've decided these moments will be a little less jarring in the future. That's I'm having this conversation with spirit. So I'm paying my very close attention to what's showing up and catching myself when I'm coming from a place of fear. Always begin here. So here are some questions to ponder. Where in your life are you coming from a place of fear? Think about in your families, your job, your neighborhood, your community, wherever. Just be on the lookout for any reactive, fear-based words and actions. So where are you coming from fear? And then take a moment and let compassion for yourself rise up from within you. Ask your heart, what would love do? What would love do? Still the mind, go into your heart, let compassion rise, and then ask for guidance. What would love do? And then do that. Do that. Because quantum action takes place from the inside out. Transformative action comes from the inside out. The world will never change until I start to come from that place of kindness and compassion and caring. Even if I have to do something that says no to something that's harmful to another, I can do it with love. And as you practice this, let it permeate your heart. Let it permeate your life. Let it permeate your relationships. And see what happens when you experience connection, when you let compassion lead you into a transformed future, where you remember everything's all right. And know that we begin to look and see the world in a different way, and then the world changes. In the words of Arundhati Roy, that world is not only possible, she's on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathe. And so it is. So let's take a moment right now. Let's take a moment right now and listen for her breathing as we move our attention deep within the body. So I invite you, if you're sitting down, to feel yourself being supported. Move your attention deep within the body. Let it sink deeper and deeper and deeper as you feel the soles of your feet. If they're planted on the floor, what does that feel like? Just notice how you feel. Move your attention upward through the body, scanning for places of tension as you move through the trunk of your body, through the chest and shoulders, up through the neck to the head, face, down through your arms and hands, and focus on your hands. How do they feel? Are they cold? Are they warm? Are they tingling? Just become very aware of the aliveness within you. Remembering that we are in the presence of pure being, right here, right now. There's no separation. God is our source. And as we open our hearts in compassion, we become aware of that connection to our source. The heart is the portal to that deeper dimension. Let that feeling of compassion just warm our hearts and spill out, moving throughout the body, having compassion for ourselves, for our loved ones, those in our community, and beyond, all of humanity. We're all here to be the one to awaken, to be the difference in our little corner of the world, to bring compassion and kindness to every situation. To become aware of when we are reacting in fear, and learning how to have total compassion for ourselves. Take a breath. A new day is coming. It's dawning. We are all part of that dawning. As we continue to open ourselves to the deeper source within us, we become the avenue through which spirit expresses on this planet. For the opportunity to do so, our hearts open and remain in gratitude. And so it is.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you for taking us along your journey. And yeah, lots to consider there. So thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being on that journey with me, everyone, as we walk that waterfront, because it really did change my world in a big way. So
All right. Our next song is one of my favorites. I was blessed. Claudel was one of my instructors when I went through school, and this is one of her songs. So I hope you enjoy.
Here I am, Lord, use me, guide me, fill me, take me, lead me by your will. Here I am, Lord, ready to follow, to serve you, to love you, to be you in this world. Thy will is done through me this day. Thy will is done through me this day. Lord, you call, I answer. I'm open, I listen, I hear you, I feel you moving me. Lord, I come closer, humble, surrender, lifted, committed to your plan. Thy will is done through me this day. Thy will is done through me this day. Here I am, Lord, I come. Here I am, Lord, I
As always, we thank you for your gifts and know that Unity Halton Peel is a tithing ministry, and we share our gifts with Unity Canada, the overarching organization for unity in Canada, and for Eden Food for Change. And on the screen and at our website are additional details about how to share your financial gifts. And we are so grateful for these gifts and for your sharing with us and for your presence with us. And let us take a moment remembering that money is a symbol of energy, a symbol of love, a symbol of prosperity, a symbol of wholeness. And we know together that divine love now flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Upcoming events. A month today, we start Unity World Day of Prayer. If you go to unity.org, you can find a place to sign up for the online events. And I'm excited. This has been around for quite a while, and it's now truly expanded with our ability to connect online. We can start the process as the day begins when it crosses over into the international date line. And Silent Unity in Australia and New Zealand open the day for us. And then we complete as we cross back through the western of the US and Canada and into South America. So lots happening with that. Mark your calendars. Also upcoming, I don't have a slide for it, but mark your calendars again. Unity Canada's annual conference will be in October, as will our annual general meeting. More details coming on that, but there are some speakers that are booked that I am really excited about. And it's an opportunity for us to come coast to coast and get together online. All things being equal, or as one of my friends says, God willing and the creek don't rise, we will meet in person in 2025. It's been a long time since we have been able to meet in person. As always, please join us at our website. There's additional information about upcoming events and weekly events. And reach out to us if you would like to know more about Unity, who we are, what we teach, and how you can be a greater part of our community. And that brings us to our children's blessing. And I just invite you to take a moment to see the children in your life, the children of the world, surrounding them in love and light, knowing that they too can face fears, and that as we model for them a spiritual path, as we model for them the ability to remind ourselves of our spiritual self, they can lead us into greater harmony. And we join together, children and youth of Unity and of the world. We love you, we bless you, and we appreciate you just the way you are. And we conclude our gathering with the words of Jane Stillett Freeman. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love. The power of God protects us. I am the power. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. And we'll ask Sue Riley to sing us out.
Peace in my life is growing because I choose love. Love's always present, it's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one tie that binds us, that can't be undone. I choose love. Peace in my family is growing because I choose love. Let love be present, it's what we're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one loving family, sharing one son. I choose love.
Thank you for joining us this week. We look forward to seeing you again real soon.